guys. I'm out on a beautiful river here in northeast Victoria today. I'm just going to run through a little bit of water and talk you through how I break it down, maybe a couple of tips and techniques. Let's get out there and have some fun. So I'm starting at the back of this pool. I've got a single nymph on. It's a single 3mm bead. It's still morning and the water is quite cool. There's a few very small, tiny mayfly getting around. But I think because the water, there's a fish, because the water is still quite cold, I'm expecting there might be a few fish hanging back here in the softer water at the back of the pool. There we go, there's a little brownie. There he is. Little guy. Nice, well that's a good start. I haven't actually taken the water temperature yet. I might do that just now and see where it's sitting. It's cooled down quite considerably in the last day or two because we've had a little bit of rain here. Yeah. So that's reading down around 10 degrees, which is fairly cool. So I don't expect that I'll find too many fish up in the faster water just yet. Perhaps later in the day when the sun gets on the water, the fish might start moving up into the riffles. Anyway, we shall see. But for the moment, I'm going to focus a little bit on this slower water at the back of the pools. I'm just going to put a bit more paint marker on the end of my leader here, just to make it a little easier to see. These paint markers are fantastic. We've been using coloured wax for some time now, and the coloured wax works fine, but the paint markers seem to show up nice and bright and they stay on fairly well. So a lot of people are moving to these now. I find for me that the pink works really well on a greeny yellow chartreuse colour line. All right, I'll just take a step or two forwards and start covering a bit of fresh water. Alright, let's move up a little. I'm just going to put some casts down the soft inside edge here first. That's the water that's closest to me. But I also do expect the fish to be sitting in the softer stuff, so make sure I work that inside edge towards me first. There's some upwelling out here in the middle, which probably indicates there's some big boulders. Rocky structure there on the bottom. I can see some big rocks in there. Let's move on up. I don't feel like this is really the optimal part of the pool. The currents are a little bit complex and swirly. There's upwellings. I think there's going to be better water further up here that's a little more comfortable and easier for the trout to feed in. I'm going to work the soft edges here in the middle part of the pool. It looks to me like the best water is going to be up higher in the top of the pool on the inside edge, but I'll work my way up to it through the edges of this middle section first. There's a bit of a soft edge on the far side over here. It's a bit swirly, but we'll run some nymphs through it and just see if we pick anything up. So let's move up to the prime water at the top now. All right, so I'm going to work my way up this inside edge here now. Just try and carefully get in and get back into position without spooking too much, hopefully. There is a little bit of soft current on the far side as well, at the top there, and I'll work my way through that too, but I think I'll work this inside edge first before I go and try and fish the far side. Oh, I just dropped a fish. Well, perhaps there might be some fish at the very top of that run. I'll come back and fish for those in a minute, but first I'm going to come back here and fish the far side seam now, across the other side, and see if there's fish sitting on the edge over there. There's a lovely looking little side seam that comes in up here. It's nice and soft. Looks like it's got a bit of depth in it. I'm definitely going to fish that. Well, I haven't picked up fish where I thought I might so far at the top of this pool. There is a little side current with some soft water just over the far side there. Perhaps that slightly slower water might be where they're sitting. I'm just going to work my way over to that if I can and put a couple of quick casts through that. There's a fish. He was up there in that sneaky little side current. Well, there we are, guys. Little brownie. I'll get him back in the water. He was sitting in a little slow water soft pocket at the top there. He wasn't where I was expecting the fish to be sitting. So it seems they're definitely wanting the slow water at the moment with the water temperatures cool. It's still morning and the sun's just starting to get over the hill now. So maybe when the sun gets on the water and it just starts to warm up that little bit, I think the fishing might pick up. Fingers crossed. Okay, there's another little soft pocket at the top here, just up in there. I'm going to go and run some nymphs through that too. I didn't touch anything in the top of that pool, so let's move up to the next pool and try and find some slower water. I think perhaps the deeper, slower water might be fishing best at this time of day. Let's see. A couple of tiny little stuff there. Yeah. Very small. There's some nice slow bubble line water at the back of this pool here. It's not terribly deep, so I've got the dry fly rod out this time. I'm going to throw a couple of dry flies through it, and then we'll work our way up into the deeper stuff with the nymphing rod. Oh, I just saw a rise over there. A little to the right of that. That might cover him. There he is. Oh, I dropped him. Have to treat the dry fly. I didn't quite get a good hook set into him. Let's wash the fly off first, get any slime off. Squeeze out the water with Amadou or a fly kerchief. And then I'm going to give it some dust. Fishing a super long dry fly leader here. It's 18 feet down to 7x tippet. It's very low clear water, but I like to fish very long dry fly leaders anyway, simply for the fact of getting a better drift. Your standard 9-foot dry fly leader that you buy in most shops is pretty much useless for dry fly fishing, in my opinion. You really need to go a lot longer and a lot finer in order to get good drifts with a dry fly. The other thing that you need to do is cast slack into your tippet. There's literally no point in straightening out your leader on a dry fly, because the minute you straighten out your leader, you're dragging. So you have to incorporate slack into your cast. There's one. Ah, I dropped him too. Ah. So I'll keep working up towards the top of the pool now. I can cover a lot of this water with the dry fly first, and some of it I can come back and nymph afterwards. I'm just prospecting at this stage, trying to cover the likely looking water. Prospecting with a dry fly can be effective, particularly in the right kind of water. It doesn't have to be too deep, of course. You don't want it too deep for dry fly, because then the fish have got to come up a long way. But if there's a little bit of flow, the right amount of flow, and the fish is sitting in that kind of water, then it's an effective way to prospect. I'm just going to work down that bubble line on the far bank there, under that tree. Try and get some drifts under there.
I've covered that with the dry fly now. So let's switch back to the nymphing rod and move up to the top of the pool and see if there's something sitting in the depth in the top run. I've gone back to the nymphing rod now, and I'm just going to work my way through the tops of these runs with a single nymph. I'll start at the nearest one, even though it's not the best one. I expect the one on the far side there is probably going to be the one that holds most of the fish, but I want to clear the water in front of me before I work my way over to it. I've already covered this water with the dry fly, but I'll just run the nymph through it a few times quickly to see if there's something in there that wouldn't come up for the dry. But the deeper water is on the run on the far side there. So I'm not going to spend too much time here. Just a few casts to clear the water essentially. Oh! I'm not sure whether that was a take or not. Possibly. So I could be lazy and fish long here, but in order to get proper drifts, I really need to get over and try to get my rod tip in line as much as possible with my drift. So I'm going to work my way into the middle of the pool here. Otherwise my drifts are going to have too much sideways drag on them. There's, oh, I dropped him. He was in there. As I was saying, otherwise my drifts are going to have too much sideways drag on them. Sometimes the fish can be forgiving with that, but many times, not so much. I hope I haven't missed my only opportunity here by dropping that fish. There is a nice little slower water run here at the top on the far side. Definitely want to work my way through this. It looks quite nice. I can't see too much from here exactly what the depth is doing, but from looking at the surface water it looks like it might be have just enough depth and a slightly slower pace, which the fish might be looking for just at the moment with this cold water. There's one. He was up in the top there. Lovely little brown trout. Beautiful fish. There he goes. So he was in the soft little pocket water over the other side of the run there. I might go back in there and give that more of a shot. It looks like a nice spot.
It's really nice water in there. There's one. Little tacker this time. Tiny little brown. Just let him go. I'm going to go and work over the far side there now. There's another little mini current coming in with a little bit of a pull. Let's go and see if there's anything in that. I'll just work a couple through the pool in the middle first, just in case, before I get too close. Currents are a little bit more confusing in this side channel. It might not be quite as prime as the other one, but we'll see. There's a big boulder in the back here that's causing a bit of a central eddy, and there's a hole in the middle. So the current sort of goes in a circular motion. Sometimes doesn't fish quite as well as straighter, more direct currents. But there might be a spot in there that's a nice, comfortable holding spot for the fish. Possibly on the other side over there. There's one. Another little brown. Flies out. So there's an underwater boulder just in here, and he was sitting just on the back edge of that boulder in the bottom of the V here. There's a couple of different currents that come in from slightly different angles, and often you'll find where there's a V where two currents meet can be a great spot for trout to sit. Right, let's move on up. Well, this pool has depth in the middle and a shallow bank on the far side. There's a good slot through the back here with a bit of depth and some slower water. I'm going to work that first with the nymph. These kinds of pools
can be a little bit tricky to fish sometimes, because depending on how big the pool is, you might not be able to get access from the deep side to fish it. So you could be forced to fish it from the other bank, which can work okay if you can reach across the current, but it can also mean that if you haven't got quite the reach to do it, that your nymph gets dragged into the fast current all the time and doesn't get deep enough. Whereas the challenge fishing from the deep side like this is that if you don't reach out enough, your nymph pulls into the eddy and comes out of the edge of the current. So it can be a bit of a challenge from either side, but I'm going to approach this one from the deep side. See, there's a big boulder submerged on the slow side here, and there's a very deep channel through the middle next to that boulder. If I can get a good drift through there, that might be a good holding spot for a trout. I'm not sure if that got down deep enough then. I think I need to switch up my bead size here in order to get the depth that I want. So I'm going to stick with the same fly. I'll tell you what the pattern is. I'll go through the gear at the end, but I've just gone up a bead size. So I've gone up from a 3mm bead up to a 3.3mm bead. And let's see if that makes a little bit of difference to the depth. I just have a single nymph on at the moment. You could certainly double nymph this water, but for the sake of demonstration today, and because my battery's getting low, I'm just going to stick with one nymph for now. I need to land it exactly on the edge of the current. It seems to be getting pulled to the side by the current there a little bit. There's a little bit of an eddy forming. I'm just going to move forward slightly and try a little bit of the water slightly further up. Okay, I got a good drift through the channel that time. Didn't get anything, so I'll just start fishing a little further forward now. Some slippery boulders in here. I need to be a little careful with my wading. Alright, there's a little side channel here. It's a bit closer to me. I'm going to fish this first before I start reaching over. I'm a little surprised we haven't touched anything through this deep water here. I would have thought that would be the prime spot. But perhaps the currents are just a little too confused. I'll just try a couple of these small pockets at the top here. And then I might try and reach over and fish the far side seam. Let's try and reach over into the far side current over here. Got to get my rod up high here to keep my line clear over that raging current in the middle. Otherwise my fly gets dragged out and my drift gets ruined. Sometimes pools like this can look fantastic on first glance, but when you get into them and actually start fishing them, you realise that the currents are a little bit confused. There isn't necessarily an obvious feeding lie for the fish, and they can be quite difficult to fish. I'm sure there are fish in this pool, it's just that the feeding lie is quite difficult to identify and I wasn't able to find it. So sometimes the less obvious water can actually fish better than the big pool that you come up to that has the deep slot through the middle and you initially think, oh gosh, there's going to be a big one in that. It's not always the case. So the gear I've been using today is an 11-foot 2-weight nymphing rod. I'm running 0.18 colour line as my leader and 8x tippet, and I've been fishing a pheasant tail fly, size 3mm bead to start with on a size 18 hook, and then I went down to a 3.3mm bead on a size 16 hook for the deeper water through here. And the dry fly rod is a 9'6" 3-weight. I've got a 2-weight line on it and I'm fishing an 18-foot leader down to 7x tippet, and the fly is a split wing CDC mayfly. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Please leave us a comment, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time. Cheers.